It is a very hard reality that everything related to coffee always have to be so pricey. Good quality coffee beans are expensive. If you want a good grinder, it's also going to be expensive. And then at some point you're deeply enough in the coffee rabbit hole that you also start thinking about water quality. And you have different options. I think this is a very popular one. You get this cartridges and they are pretty expensive. Then you have the option you get some distilled water and you can add a mixture of minerals that depending you have like this ready mixtures that are pretty expensive. You have the droplets that are like in a very concentrated solution, or you can get them by yourself, but they are pretty hard to get. It's not that easy to get this pure minerals. This is, for example, magnesium sulfate. I was able to find it in the pharmacy. It's quite expensive, and yes, and also it's only to be found in a pharmacy. And the other minerals that you normally hear, you either have to order them online or pay a lot for them in a specialized shop. So I was thinking about an option how to get good quality water, because water is very expensive. It's very expensive, and it's also very important to have the right water. Maybe we can explain it in a different video what the influence is of the quality of water on the flavor of coffee. So what are some options that we can use? What I found is you can get this ion exchange gel that is normally used for industrial water desalination plants. It looks like this. This is small spheres. They are polymers that they interact with ions and cations in water. This one is a mixture. It both extracts the cations and the anions in water so that you get something that's close to distilled water. And this is of course food safe. This is a very specific one that is safe to use for the human consume. And this thing is pretty cheap. This is 10 euro. Which comparing with how much you can get around, being realistic, 70 liters of water. It will mean less than 20 cents per liter of water. It's very hard to get in somewhere distilled water that is going to be cheaper than that. And it also has the convenience aspect. You can just filter your water fresh. You don't have to buy it in there. You don't have to get the 2 liter, the 5 liter bottle and then transport it to your home. And also you don't need entirely pure water. You need some of the minerals. So you can, depending on the way you mix the water with the gel, you can get to the point that you have the amount of minerals in water that you need. So what I do is I take one of these very cheap, I don't know the name, these percolators, and I put this cheap, well in this case I'm using one that is a little bit of a fancier one, the Mocha Master, but just because I don't have the cheaper version. But you can get this very cheap paper and this very cheap percolator, and you add some of the gel, it looks like that. And then you just put water on it. So I have this water that I already filtered before, because I can also explain it in a different video. If you just let it like that, similar to when you're doing coffee, you have a little bit of bypass. So some water is gonna go through without interacting with the gel, but it's not a bad thing. I just want to purify it, but not too much, so I still have some minerals there. So I just let it interact with the gel. And I did some measurements. I don't have a machine here, but at work I have a machine to measure the conductivity of the water. And depending on the way I let the water go through the filter, I can get between 100 and 10 microsiemens per square centimeter, microsiemens per centimeter, or square centimeter. Well, it is a very low value. It's I'm in some cases I can also mix it with normal water, so I get to the point where the water has enough buffer capacity. Otherwise, it's gonna taste too bland. So now I have my water that has very low minerals in it. I can boil it. Maybe I still don't start with it, and I get. We can prepare the coffee now. I'm gonna stop the video because I don't know if I have enough space in my phone, and I will be sad if I have to record everything from the beginning. So I'm gonna be there in a minute. Let's do 15 grams of this Ethiopian beans. They have a very mild taste. They have a little bit some fruity notes, and I decided to use them because they are then it's easier to see the difference between normal water and water with the lower content of minerals. This coffee becomes a very bland tea if you use normal water, and where I live I have very hard water. It even tastes a little sharp, a little chalky. We have 15 grams because I'm also going to be drinking coffee later, and I don't want to sometimes I do the thing with the spray, but I don't have it right now. Here it's okay. I think I was using it before for espresso, so I have to calibrate it again. 15 clicks. This is of course not a Comandante, not a king grinder. It's a very humble thyme or chestnut. I need a little bit of elbow grease. You can start boiling the water. Nice. And I also have some fine particles because again this grinder is not so excellent, so I filter a little bit of them out. I sift them out. And you can see a little bit of the fine powder that we don't want there, adding to the bitterness of the coffee. It's probably very loud now. I have boiler. We don't have temperature measurement. We just let it cool a little bit, hoping that it's going to go from 99 degrees to 95. That should be fine. have my... I don't know how much weight I have in the end. Let's see. So 14, I will use around 210 milliliters of water. I got a message, I think. It's not extremely fresh, this coffee. That's why it doesn't need a lot of blooming time. We'll go with 20 seconds or 30 seconds. It should be fine. And about all these different pouring techniques, I think I'm gonna keep it simple. Just 2 pours. We wait a little bit. It's a very light coffee. It's almost like tea-like. But it is, I remember having some notes of fruits, like a little bit of a berry flavor. Let's see. It's been a while since I last tried this coffee. I think I had ice. Oh yeah, I forgot to measure the entire extraction time, but it doesn't matter. I guess it's going to be around 3 minutes. I didn't experience it having a very strong influence on flavor, tracking it if it goes 2 minutes or 3 minutes. So it looks fine. Now we mix it a little bit. We need to let it cool down. It smells nice. A little weak. I think originally it is also a coffee I roasted myself. I think it could have used a little bit more of development time because I like a little bit more body in my coffee. But it's a very nice coffee. So I am going to use 2 different cups because there's another thing I wanna try simultaneously at the same time. I want to know if adding magnesium to my water, I know that I have enough calcium. My water is very rich. Where we get it from, I live in Germany. We have very hard water. I don't have no doubt of having enough calcium and carbonates in my water. But what I lack is magnesium. And I have read a lot about magnesium boosting some of the fruit notes of coffee, and I want to try it. And I'm going to try it by adding it directly to my coffee and mixing it with a spoon. I did this experiment before. I wasn't able to see a difference, but it was also maybe because the coffee itself that I was trying the last time didn't have a lot of fruity notes, and I'm expecting it to have a little bit more fruitiness. So this is what I'm gonna try. I'm gonna stop the video again so that nothing goes wrong, and I'm gonna come back soon. It is still working with the recording. The coffee is a little colder now. It smells really nice. Yes, it's a little weak in a sense of I feel like there's not enough stuff diluted in the coffee, but this is more about the roasting and not about the extraction itself. But what is clear is that I have a lot more brightness than if I was doing it with normal water. It will be impossible to taste this delicate overall notes of the coffee. It tastes a little bit like tea. It has this very, very slight hints of fruits, but I'm not going to exaggerate. I'm not going to tell you it tastes like blueberries or it tastes like strawberries or something like that. It has some fruitiness. It's not defined which kind, where it comes from, but it's there. And it also has a little bit, there's something about some of the Ethiopian beans that I was able to find. They have a little bit of umami in them. It's hard to explain, but it's like, I would describe it like if you were to put MSG in them, and it has this, yes, it's the only way I can describe it. This has a little bit of umami flavor, which is really nice. And now let's see if we can boost, oh, of course I need a spoon, I forgot. If we can boost this fruitiness that is now really, really mild with some of our magnesium sulfate. And last time I added like 3 or 4 corns, I don't know, crystals. Yeah, like 3 or 4 crystals. I'm gonna add 6 and see how it goes. I was also curious of seeing if it will have like a difference, change the color of the coffee or something like that, but it's not the case. I need, of course, a little bit more coffee to compare. Let's see. Still have some water left to clean the palate. Okay. Yes, it's so good, but there's almost no difference, and I think I'm not going to be able to taste any difference between the coffee. It also doesn't have a negative effect. It's not like adding it, same as if I was to add some sodium carbonate, the thing for baking. If I will, because I also did the experiment, if I were to add a little bit, slightest amount of it in coffee, it will completely ruin it. But this, I'm gonna exaggerate the effect because I really wanna see if I'm able to taste some difference by adding a lot. Also because I got this very expensive salt and now I have to do something with it. It would be a good idea knowing if there's some experiments that are possible with it. No, it starts getting kind of metallic in the flavor. It doesn't change the flavor, it changes the mouthfeel, but it's not a positive influence. Now I'm at the point where I have a lot of it in the water. I don't feel like the acidity goes away, it only changes how it feels. Again, it feels metallic in a different way, how too much carbonate feels, but it's not a positive thing. So magnesium, At least I tried already with 2 different coffees. It doesn't have a difference in the perception of fruitiness or special notes in the coffee. Which if you look it up in internet, there's still a lot of places where they put it. So I would like to hear about the experiences of somebody, because also a different thing I always see when they prepare this water solutions, this special mixture of minerals, they always put the carbonates and calcium together with the magnesium, but never as an isolated experiment. And I would like to know if somebody has done the experience of magnesium really having, as an isolated factor, a real influence on the flavor. For me, still not the case. Again, in small amounts, it's not negative for the flavor or for the mouthfeel. At some point, you add too much and it starts, as I said before, it stays in metallic, but which seems to have the highest impact on flavor is simply removing a lot of all these dissolved minerals that come naturally in water, especially if you have very hard water. So I think that's all. The next thing I'm going to do is a cappuccino. And I wish you that you have a nice day.